Welcome back to Reflect Politics. My name is Brendan Plank. Kari Lake, the failed Arizona politician, appeared before a congressional committee today and was absolutely destroyed by two Democratic representatives. The first clip, we are going to watch Representative Madeleine Dean call out Kari Lake for being a propaganda arm for Donald Trump, telling her that she has lost all credibility. And second, Arizona Representative Stanton is going to call out Kari Lake for being the adjudicated liar that she is. Be sure to subscribe to Reflect Politics so you get videos like this delivered straight to you.
I've just heard 3 or 4 or 5 members from the other side of the aisle say thank you for bringing reform.
You're welcome.
No, but let me finish my sentence, please, because that's not what you're bringing. They obviously didn't hear your testimony. They did not read your testimony. And I'll read part of it. And you said it again today. I was sworn in at USAGM on March 3rd, and it became clear in the following weeks, today you said in days, that reform was not possible. They missed your premise. Reform's not possible. You figured that out in days. When asked what review you had done of this very large agency, you had no answer.
I do have an answer.
Excuse me, this is my time. You'll wait for my questions. You then went on to say, this is filled with a bloated staff who hates America. You have been holding up photographs after photographs, including the image of the President of the United States. I feel like I am suffering through a propaganda war through your testimony. So I can see why the other side of the aisle, which is now not here, was utterly confused and congratulating you for wanting to reform this agency. No, because here's what you said. And I'm a former professor of writing. I'm somebody who is really skeptical of euphemism. You've said over and over again, you just want to reduce it to its statutory minimum. And then you said, and that it will be gone by 2026. You want it gone. The president wants it gone by 2026. I ask unanimous consent to enter onto the record this article: Moscow and Beijing rejoice at the looming death of Radio Free Europe, VOA. I ask unanimous consent. Thank you, Chair. No, that is not for you to speak to. That's what we do here. This article: Chinese propaganda surges as the U.S. defunds Radio Asia. I ask unanimous consent. Our adversaries are delighted with your plan, delighted that you'll be stripping this thing out. And I'm puzzled. My question really today is for Republican members. Think of the vaunted VOA. I have had the opportunity to visit VOA and many of the journalists who have worked at VOA. It is something that this country has been very proud of. And yet in your beginning testimony, you talked about, oh my goodness, USAGM, quote, hires a large number of foreign nationals, including from countries hostile to America, and uses J-1 visas as a shadow jobs and backdoor immigration program. Number one, again, propaganda, misinformation, J-1 visas are non-immigrant visas. Number two, and this is just a question of logic and basic understanding. Think about it. Many of the journalists who report through these supported networks are native to the countries in which it is critical to transmit accurate, factual, and legal, linguistically fluent information. Of course, they should be hired. But you use as though that's a bad thing. Large number of foreign nationals, as though there's some other, as though there's a reason to demonize them. Foreign national journalists who actually understand what's going on.
We should hire American.
You know what? Voice of America is not only about talking about America, it's about reporting on the world. And millions of people for decades have relied upon it. So for those of you who think this was about reform, it's not. It's about shutting down media. If you really wanted to reform it, if you really thought there were places to change, and I'm sure there are places to improve, then you would have spent more than a few days and come to a more serious conclusion. That's my worry about you in this position. You're just not serious about it. You are a propaganda machine for the Trump administration. It is an incompetent review that you have completed. Well, actually, you didn't complete it. It sounds like you never even started it. You didn't interview anybody. You've never run an agency like this. You're a former journalist, apparently, allegedly. Although I don't trust your journalistic integrity when you hold up a single picture of a newsroom at a single moment in time and think that reveals anything. It reveals nothing. It's evidence of nothing. I don't know if they all just went to lunch. Who knows what that's a picture of?
Have you ever
Your
worked in a
journalistic
newsroom?
integrity, I've been to many newsrooms. Your journalistic integrity is shot. My son has an expression that he taught me years ago, that trust and credibility is gained in drops and poured out in buckets. Sadly, you have poured out that trust and credibility over years. But I see why Mr. Trump put you in this position. He doesn't want a free press. He doesn't want Americans, soldiers across this globe hearing the facts of what's going on. He doesn't want our adversaries to actually know what's going on. Look at what we're up to today. We can't get the facts. We can't even get a briefing on an attack by the United States using our exquisite military expertise from the President of the United States and those who put it forward. We can't get at the facts. All we're getting is propaganda. Totally obliterated the nuclear program of Iran. We have to rely upon that as our news source. I'll be going to a SCIF to try to get whatever little information we can. But honest to goodness, I have no question for you because you don't have any credibility. You have misled this other side of the aisle with some notion of reform when you even say you don't want reform. You just want to collapse the doggone thing. You fired people. You let people go. You misled this committee, worrying about who was vetting the hires. You didn't bother to say that in 2018 to 2021, the new hires were vetted by DOD. You've misled this committee. You're misleading America. You did it in your own state through your own elections. You did it with the presidential election. You've lost your credibility. You've poured it out in buckets. And I yield the remainder of my time.
Any way I can respond to some of that?
I didn't.
I can? Okay. Well, let's start. I agree that we have an exquisite military. I've never heard it referred to by that. And I think that you would have been fighting, and hopefully you were fighting, Representative, when our military were being summarily fired because they didn't want to get an experimental shot. So hopefully you were sitting in that chair, standing up for the men and women in our military, being fired from the military. And hopefully you are opposed to the CCP propaganda that has snuck in to the VOA. But I'm not sure if you are. And you talk about, you talk about me being upset that we're hiring foreign nationals.
Madam Chairwoman, I really am not asking for any response, so I would ask that this stop. I don't know whose time she is on.
Thank you very much.
Representative Dean, they're not even letting Kari Lake speak. Dean has actually been on fire over the past 2 days in these committee hearings. Yesterday, she grilled Pam Bondi, the U.S. Attorney General for Donald Trump. You can watch that video in the cards of this video. I'll also leave it at the end screen so you can watch it after this video. But the point Dean is making here is that Donald Trump is going after the people and the organizations that help to hold him accountable, that help to shine the light on his corruption, on his criminality. That's why he's going after Voice of America. As Dean pointed out there, Kari Lake doesn't want to reform and strengthen Voice of America. She wants to diminish it. She wants to zero it out. That's why Trump is also threatening lawsuits against media organizations, getting senior journalists fired who simply criticize his administration, his advisors. That's why he's fired inspectors generals throughout the U.S. government. anyone who helps to hold him accountable, he wants to get rid of. He wants to weaken them. And that, in turn, is weakening the United States because trust is pouring out like Dean said there, quoted her son. Now, Dean also brought up the lies that Kari Lake has spewed after the losses that she faced in the elections in Arizona, one for governor and the other for Senate. And Representative Stanton in this next clip is going to lay Kari Lake out for being that adjudicated liar.
The gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Stanton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Ms. Lake, your actions as senior advisor are eroding American soft power around the globe. We should not be dismantling the agency that combats propaganda from the Chinese Communist Party, the Kremlin, and Tehran. Especially now, we need to be able to broadcast facts that counter Iranian state-run media spin that is essential to America's long-term interests. Your job is to tell the people of the world the truth about America. And because of that, there's a more fundamental issue I want to address today, and that is character. You see, Ms. Lake, we have both been public figures in Arizona for a long time. I've seen you in action, including your behavior in the last 2 elections. And let me be clear about something. The American people cannot believe a word you say. You ran for governor in Arizona in 2022. You lost fair and square. Instead of conceding, you embarrassed yourself and our state by lying again and again for years, blaming everything under the sun for your loss except for your own toxic politics. You lie about that election to this very day. You lied about signatures on mail-in ballots not matching those on file. Proven wrong. You lied about ballots being intentionally misprinted and then rejected in Republican areas. Total BS. You lied and said hundreds of thousands of ballots were mishandled. Zero evidence. You claimed fake ballots were snuck into batches before they were counted. Come on. You repeated these lies again and again, and you said even recently, quote, I am the duly elected governor. They just stole it, unquote. Give me a break. Ms. Lake, your new role requires you to tell the truth. For decades, whenever authoritarians and dictators suppressed the people and claimed victory in fraudulent elections, Voice of America countered those lies. I can't imagine how people fighting for democracy today and around the world can trust someone who has so shamelessly lied about her own election.
Will the gentleman yield to the
Ms.
question?
Lake, no, I will not.
Okay,
Ms.
well,
Lake,
just so you know,
to regain a
VOA
semblance of
wanted
your
to not
credibility, I
call
will not
Hamas
yield.
terrorists, so
Ms. Lake,
if we're
to
gonna
regain a
berate the
semblance of
witness,
your
we may as well be
credibility.
factual about the
Are
evidence.
you,
This is
I
the
do not-
gentleman's
I do not-
time. If you did not yield, you
I
may
do not
continue.
yield, and I'd like the time back. Ms. Lake, to regain a semblance of your credibility, are you finally ready to admit you lost the 2022 Arizona election?
It saddens me that you are from Arizona and you're okay with
That's
the
a
way
yes or no question, Ms.
saddens
Lake.
me that you are from
I
Arizona.
guess the answer is no. Reclaiming my time.
The gentleman
I-
will suspend, will stop the clock. For all present, members are reminded to avoid engaging in personality toward the president and other members. Okay, and this is a member of the administration, so I would caution all to stay on the subjects and stay off of personalities,
Would love to.
please. The gentleman may continue.
Yes, and in this case, these are adjudicated lies. Courts of law have determined that these are lies. These are not me saying it. You didn't
Wow,
just
and the
lie to
courts-
the
the
press.
courts are really
You
awesome
took
right
those
now.
lies to court and lost again and again. Every one of your lawsuits failed. And a federal judge said that you were furthering false narratives that blamelessly undermine public trust. And you didn't just lie. You were formally sanctioned by the court. Ms. Lake, you have been sanctioned twice for providing false information to courts. Isn't that true? Yes or no?
I was brave enough to fight our shoddy elections, and the courts have not caught up.
That was a yes or no. I guess the answer is no. Let me reclaim my time. You have been sanctioned by both
What?
the
I can
United
tell-
States District Court and the Arizona Supreme Court for, quote, making false factual statements to the court. And you were sued for defamation by a Republican election official, Stephen Richer. He and his family were subjected to harassment and even death threats because of those lies. You told your supporters, Richer and fellow Republican County Supervisor Bill Gates, that they, quote, sabotaged Election Day. You accused them of deliberately printing the wrong image on ballots to jam tabulators and injecting hundreds of thousands of phony ballots. What a joke. And here's the thing, Ms. Lake. When it came down to it, you chickened out. You refused to defend those lies in court. You decided to take a default judgment. You are an adjudicated liar and a two-time political
Chairman, I move to
loser
take down
in
those
Arizona.
those
I have
words,
one
please.
final question.
Chairman,
Reclaiming my time.
I'd like
I
to
have one
take
final
down
question.
those
If I could
words.
yield.
It's the
He's gotta get his
gentleman's
fundraising
I do not
3
yield.
seconds.
I have one final question
Get your
for you,
fundraising
Call
Ms.
someone a
Lake. You have
liar.
a chance
That's
to
not
answer.
how
Let me
you
one
treat
final
other
question.
people that
The
are being
gentlelady
questioned.
will suspend, please. Go ahead. You may
You
continue.
lost for governor in 2022 to Katie Hobbs. You lost even worse to Ruben Gallego for Senate in 2024. Well, Arizona has another election for governor next year. Will you do us all a favor and run it back and run for governor again? I yield.
The gentlelady
No more questions.
Can I
respond.
respond
You may
to
respond.
some of that? Because that was complete insanity. I wish I could yield back the last 5 minutes of my life, actually. And I want to apologize to the people of Arizona that we have somebody who's representing the folks in one of our great parts of the Valley that doesn't care about the integrity of our election. So but you weren't here. You came in late. And we're talking about USAGM today, the Agency for Global Media, and how they can put out absolute abject lies, and we can't control any. We have no say over what the editorial content is, and I would hope that you would not be okay with that. They could literally put out a lie about anybody here, and I know you've been the victim of that. I know you've been the victim. I remember the stories about you where they said you had a gay lover, and those were going out all
Mr. Chair.
over.
Chairman.
Can I
I
finish
hope
the
you
story?
honor what you just gave as a caution to everyone, and I moved those words be
to tell you that those kind of lies, and you said
I'll rule
those
if
were
you want.
lies, those kind of lies could be broadcast today on VOA, and you couldn't pick up the phone, Representative Stanton, and call them and say, hey, you're putting out lies about me. You would not be able to do that because they would sue you for breaking the firewall. So lies are being told on Voice of America. It's inappropriate. You've been subjected to lies that you said were lies about you in the media before. And how would you like it if those lies were put on Voice of America right now? Because they could do it, and you couldn't do a thing about it. You couldn't stop it. You couldn't stop all those lies that you said were said about you if they went on Voice of America today. You'd have to sit and take it.
Okay, I thank the gentlelady, and I appreciate the dialogue. Ruling on the member, she was responding, and I thought rather complimentary that in fact those were untrue, and she was defending that. So
That's what he says.
I'll leave it as that. I think Mr. Stanton would agree that those were untrue statements, and she said so. I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I apologize. I wasn't concerned at all what you were saying. My concern is that the leader of this agency, which is supposed to disseminate truth about the United States, is an adjudicated liar. That's not an exaggeration. That's not.
Okay, the gentleman made that point quite clearly.
Said that, and
Mr.
that's why I brought it up.
Recognizing myself for
Mr.
5
Chairman.
minutes.
Truly atrocious behavior here from Kari Lake, just like every other Trump administration official who has appeared before these congressional hearings. Their behavior is disgusting. It's deplorable. It's embarrassing. Kari Lake, they're bringing up a rumor about Stanton having a gay lover to try to distract from all of her lies. And you got to give it up for Representative Stanton to sit there, to listen to Kari Lake, and then to just simply remind her, well, I'm not the one who's going to go down in history as the adjudicated liar. But that's who we have running the Voice of America. That's the one we have as the kind of head truth seeker in that position. Kari Lake, the adjudicated liar. Donald Trump, only the best people, right? Let me know what your reflections are down in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to Reflect Politics so you get my future videos delivered straight to you. Thanks again for watching. My name is Brendan Plank. See you in the next video.